Hi, welcome to this video. I'm the guy with the blue hat, and I had a bit of an idea. Now, I've noticed that in the Warhammer community, most people usually love looking at kitbashes and all the crazy things people have made. And not all of it's tournament legal, obviously, but almost all of it's really cool to look at. And then I got myself thinking, there's probably a lot of people who think kit bashing is a bit more, how do I say, exclusive? Like, you need particular things to do it. Like, the main things always people think of is green stuff, special kinds of glues, third party components, and things like that. But anyone who's seen my kit bashes in some of the communities I enter, like Lorehammer and Major Kill Discord, they see that I just throw things together and just have fun with it. So today I figured, why don't I showcase how to make a simple kit bash out of just parts that you have from standard GW kits that you could effectively use in a game. Whether or not it'll be tournament legal is up to, of course, the tournament handlers, but you could always use it for narrative play, right? So let's just get into it. So what I've got to work with here are some Seraphon and Space Marine components, and we're going to be using them to make a special kind of Lizardman Marine that I like to call the Dragonborn Marine, which is basically just what if Wolfen, but we're a lizard instead. So I'll show you exactly how I make it using these simple components. So we'll start off like this. As you know, you're going to need, well, legs, torso, bits, and whatnot. But first, we're going to start with the snipping. In order to make the Marine, as shown in that little video segment, there are necessary components, namely the tail and the head. Now, the head is easy. You just have to get that on there, but the problem is the Seraphon don't have a neck. Or at least not one that's connected to the back of the head. So you're going to have to make one, and as for the tail, you're going to have to cut it off. So you take your Seraphon body, and you very carefully start snipping off the leg. Once you have that off, you have your primary problem maker out of the way, because that would prevent you from cutting off the tail. When it comes to coming off the tail, you need to measure it by the spikes along the back. The best spike I see to work with cutting is, let me just take a look at my demonstration piece. Yeah. You go for a cut right here between this large one and this small one. Went off screen. And it's little, I gotta adjust focus a bit at some point. But you just gotta snip right here. Now, you don't have to worry about making it a clean snip, because you're gonna be fixing that afterwards anyway. So you position it with the concave part of the snippers facing the chunk that you want to cut off. And then you have yourself the tail piece. Of course, you're still going to have that little hole right there where the leg goes, but it's better to have more cut off than less. That way you can always file off the excess. Now that that's done, we're going to get to working on filing it down. So based on how long you want the tail is going to be how much you cut off, because you want it to be able to fit to the back legs of the Marine. And, well, as you can see, with that strange little butt square they got going on, you're going to have to file that down a bit. So what we do is rather simple. You take a file that you have. You're going to need a file. And you're going to go right against the edge and keep rubbing at it until there's no longer a basic edge there, but instead a flat side. That way you'll have a piece to fit the tail to. Too much incorrect shape in between will prevent you from having an easy fit. And trust me, for this, you're going to want to try and make every fit as easy as possible. Careful though when you do it, you might accidentally rub off the back legs, and you could lose some detail in doing this. If you think filing it all the way down is taking too much time, you can always use your clippers and just snip the corner piece off. But once it's to your liking, then you can move on to the next part. The next part, of course, would be making the tail fit, that portion. So as that is a corner, you need to create a corner-shaped divot in the tail piece for it to fit onto. So first you're going to start off by cutting off unnecessary excess and figuring out what angle you have your corner at, because that will determine the sitting position of the tail, or resting position is probably a better word for it. Now this big spike here may actually be detrimental, so it may be good to consider getting rid of it altogether, as you do have that big old hole and a lot of excess side where you cut off the leg in your way. So I'm just going to begin by doing a corner-shaped snip. Now how I'm going to do that is concave side in, you know, how the snips are triangular. You always want to have the angled part facing inside your cut. Now, it may wiggle on you a bit, so you got to be sure you hold it steady. That way it doesn't slip and ruin your entire cut. Which is going to happen a lot if you're not able to keep a steady hand. Now, since it's a tail coming out of a Space Marine suit as a final, result, it might be a good idea to keep some of the beveled curve that would hold in the leg socket, because then you can model that to look somewhat like part of the suit, which in the end can be pretty helpful. Just make sure you don't have damaged snippers like I do, or else it might be a lot harder to pull off. Now you have yourself a square cut. And you can see how it fits in there now. So now that that's out of the way, we're going to leave that for a bit before we worry about full-on assembly. Because there's going to be something else that happens that's going to be way more aggravating than you might think. Just snipping off some parts is one thing, but trying to snip off small enough parts they can use them for something else is a whole other story. When making this guy, see, as I said before, he ain't got no neck. I had to snip off a piece of plastic that I could fasten in between him and the neck rest inside the Space Marine suit. That way I could actually properly attach it to the other components. In order to do that, this is why I hold on to extra sprues. It might be hard to get something just the right shape, but you want to go for something circular, curved if you can. Sometimes you may end up even taking them off of other parts just because. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take one of these little circles on the end of the sprue and, whoop, there it goes. You just have a nice little circle. You have that. Then, if you haven't already, assemble your Space Marine torso components. I don't use Citadel glue, I just happen to have it in a Citadel glue bottle. I actually use ABS liquid cement. I like it. Now with that there, you can try to find a good position for your neck bit. You're going to want to maybe try and give it a bit of a curve though, if you have a flat one. So take your file and you just sand down its edges so it's a bit of a off pyramid shape. It'll hopefully fit into the socket better when you try to glue it. That way it'll hold. Not enough surface area can really fuck you over during these kit bashes. So let's try and actually attach the head on. I'm going to put a little bit more glue onto our made necks and attach the head onto it. It may take a bit of adjustment to get the head in a position that you like, especially because Saurus Warrior heads are a bit larger and more awkward. Now that's on, and we're going to let that set, and let's get back to getting our tail in order. Be liberal with your usage of glue here. You're going to want to get as much of it as you can to cover surface area. And just fit it in. Right in there. Pretty cool. And we have that and the torso. Those are the two primary parts. We're going to give them a bit of time to set. Hopefully I'll just skip through it though after editing. Or we're going to combine the other components. You end up with some weird leftover bits too. And I think it's always a good idea to keep them, because who knows what you could use them for later. So I'll just toss that chopped up torso out. And we'll get to work to, well, putting the arm on the shield. These Saurus shields are a bit odd in my opinion. Like, not in like appearance or anything, I think they look pretty damn cool. No. I think they're odd in how you attach the arm to it. Because, like, you have to find the flattest piece of the arm hand where the fingers are, and then just hope you have enough glue to fill in the cracks in between. That's why I use the ABS liquid cement. Because unlike the regular Citadel's glue, which is really liquidy, it doesn't fill in the gaps as well. That doesn't fill in the gaps. This really gets into the gaps when you use a lot of it. Takes a bit longer to set, though. Which means if you're not very careful with it, you could end up ruining yourself. And I just realized I didn't get a base for him to be attached to. Let me just grab one real quick. Wonderful. Ooh. Let's just glue his feet down. Now he won't be able to escape. Perfect. So now we have legs in the base positioned, and we can start trying to, well, get the torso on there. Now it's getting pretty far along. It's pretty good. But, I wonder, will this work? You have to keep in mind there's always some problems with possible, like, component interference. So if you're making these, it might be a good idea not to give them backpacks with a lot of extra tech. You should probably stick to the standard Firstborn backpack, which I do not have any... Oh, no, there's one. I just had to pull one off a sprue. Always keep your... always keep your kit bashing sprues nearby in case you need to pull off more parts. You never want to have stuff laying around in other areas and have chaotic happenstance like I do. not as good for the build. And just... Now, it's probably advised that you should paint your components before you go putting them together, especially for kitbashes. Mostly because you can never be sure how they're going to line up and what's going to cover them, because you won't be able to predict that, obviously, if you've never built them before. But, as we've come along so far, we have a majority of the model already built. Now, what most people think of when they think Space Marines is their big old pauldrons. That's a downside to this particular build. Since he is, well, a mutated lizard man, Space Marine, his shoulders aren't quite big enough to hold a pauldron. You see that, you'd think it might, but the thing about Space Marine arms is they are built with an extra bit of shoulder just so the pauldron can easily fit on. And that's not the case with this. So, what you're going to want to do is get your arm set up by just putting the glue right there. Thankfully, the Saurus Warrior arms use a flat side, much like Space Marine arms, so they're actually very easy to fit together. Gently align it to your torso and get it right over those snip line, or what do you call them? You know, the little nubs that remain on when you glue. It's coming along pretty well so far. After that, since we already had the glue attaching the shield to the arm set up, it should be properly set by now. It doesn't take too long to set, just a bit longer than standard Citadel glue. You want to give it at least 30 seconds, like minimum. But really, it could take hours to 100% cure. Then you gently fit it on there. You're going to want to hold it by the hand attached to the shield, and then have something else that's somewhat thin, like your file, to gently hold it into place. That way it doesn't glue off or uneven, or get ruined by its own weight. And just like that, boom, we have a Dragonborn Space Marine kitbash all ready to go. And you could even say it's WYSIWYG. Because, well, think about it. Doesn't this look a lot like a chainsword and a power axe? And you could use the shields as storm shields. Because, you know, storm shields. Since I use them as Wolfen, it would pretty much take the exact same rules and I could use the same datasheet. Be entirely WYSIWYG while still having the flair of a custom design. And, you know, still use them in AOS, I guess. So, there's how you make a one-and-done Saurus Warrior Space Marine. If you like it, well, feel free to like, subscribe, maybe share it with other people who like making kitbashes just for the hell of it. And maybe drop some ideas in the comments section below. I wouldn't mind looking at them, see if I can't try my hand at them. So, you like what you see? Well, I hope you like what you see. I'm not good at outros. Anyway, have a good night. Thank you for watching.